If you grew up in the 1960s or 70s, you lived in a completely different world, one without smartphones, streaming, or seatbelts, but full of freedom, fun, and a kind of magic kids today will never experience. You didn't need Wi-Fi to have a good time. You just needed a bike, your imagination, and maybe a quarter for the candy store. From rotary phones to drive-in theaters, here are 25 things every kid from that era remembers, but modern kids will never truly understand. In the 60s and 70s, catching your favorite song on the radio was an art form and a test of patience. You'd sit by your stereo for hours, cassette tape ready, finger hovering over the record button. When that first note played, your heart jumped. But then came the real gamble, praying the DJ wouldn't talk over the intro or fade the song early. If you managed to record it perfectly, you'd listen to it on repeat like it was gold. There was no instant replay, no add to playlist, just you, your radio, and the magic of timing. Back when phones had cords that could stretch halfway across the kitchen, making a call required commitment. You'd stick your finger into the rotary dial, spin it around, and wait as it slowly clicked back each time. Mess up one number, and you started from scratch. If someone else in the house was already on the line, you had to wait. No call waiting, no texting to check in. You memorized numbers by heart and hoped your crush's parents didn't answer when you called. The heavy receiver, the sound of the dial turning. It wasn't just a phone call. It was a ritual. In every living room, there was one universal rule. Whoever sat closest to the TV became the remote control. With only 3 main channels, sometimes 4 if you were lucky, changing the channel meant standing up, walking over, and turning the dial with a satisfying click, click, click. The youngest kid was always the designated channel changer, running back and forth during commercials. There were rabbit ear antennas to adjust, aluminum foil to fix reception, and the occasional whack to the side of the set when the picture went fuzzy. Watching TV wasn't just entertainment, it was teamwork. Saturday mornings were sacred. No alarms, no chores, just cereal and cartoons. From Bugs Bunny to Scooby-Doo, the Flintstones to the Jetsons, the TV lineup was pure magic. Kids across America sat cross-legged in front of glowing screens, still in pajamas, milk spilling from cereal bowls as laughter filled the house. There were no streaming services, no watch later buttons. If you missed your show, that was it until next week. Parents got to sleep in while the kids got their few precious hours of Technicolor fun. It wasn't just TV time, it was childhood at its purest. There was nothing like pulling into a drive-in on a warm summer night. The smell of popcorn, the hum of cars idling, and the scratchy audio from the metal speaker hanging on your window. Families spread out on lawn chairs, teenagers cuddled under blankets, and kids in pajamas ran between cars. Watching movies under the stars felt like magic. Part cinema, part community gathering. You might not remember the movie, but you would remember the feeling, the glow of the screen against the dark sky, the fireflies, and that shared excitement that made the whole night unforgettable. For kids in the 60s and 70s, freedom began when the front door slammed behind you and ended when the streetlights flickered on. Days were filled with tag, hopscotch, bike rides, and climbing trees. Parents didn't track your every move. They trusted you'd come back when the world got dark. Every neighborhood had its own adventures, creeks to explore, forts to build, and secret hideouts only kids knew. The streets buzzed with laughter until twilight. There were no screens, no distractions, just pure, unfiltered imagination. That moment when the streetlights came on, it was your only clock. When thirst hit in the middle of a backyard baseball game, nobody ran inside for a glass. You grabbed the garden hose, turned it on, and waited for that first burst of warm water to turn icy cold. The metallic taste, the smell of rubber, and the way the hose sprayed unevenly. Somehow, it made the best water on earth. You passed it around, laughing, wiping your mouth on your sleeve, and getting back to play. No one cared about germs or water filters. It was childhood in its purest form, simple, messy, and full of joy. Summer evenings meant piling into the back of a pickup with your friends, legs dangling over the tailgate, wind whipping through your hair. The road stretched ahead. The sunset glowed behind, and for a moment you felt invincible. Parents didn't worry. They just told you to hold on tight. You waved to passing cars, laughed until your stomach hurt, and counted the stars as the truck bounced down dirt roads. It wasn't luxury travel, but it was freedom, the kind of freedom today's kids may never feel. When the classroom lights dimmed and the projector clicked on, you knew it was going to be a good day. The hum of the reel, the faint smell of warm film. It was mesmerizing. Teachers fiddled endlessly with focus knobs, and every time the film broke, the class erupted in cheers. Overhead projectors were just as iconic. Transparent sheets, squeaky markers, and the teacher's shadow dancing across the wall. These clunky machines turned lessons into moments of wonder and gave everyone a break from the chalkboard. Walking into a corner candy shop was like stepping into a dream. With a single coin, you could fill a tiny brown bag with jawbreakers, candy, cigarettes, licorice ropes, and wax bottles filled with syrup. The glass jars lined the shelves like treasure chests, and the smell of sugar and bubblegum filled the air. The owner always knew your name and probably how many pieces you could buy with the change jingling in your pocket. It wasn't just about the candy, it was about the ritual, the sweet, simple joy of choice and childhood. Before online shopping, Christmas dreams came in the form of a thick, glossy book, the Sears Wish Book. Every kid waited for it to arrive, flipping through its colorful pages for hours. You circled your favorites, toy trains, dolls, chemistry sets, BB guns, and made your Christmas list straight from its pages. It wasn't just a catalog. It was imagination in print. Families passed it around, marking pages and making plans. The excitement built all December long, and for a few weeks, that catalog felt like pure holiday magic. Photos weren't instant in the digital sense, but they were magical all the same. You lined up, smiled, and heard the satisfying click-whir of a Polaroid camera. The picture slid out, blank and mysterious, and everyone gathered around to watch. It slowly developed. Flash cubes popped, filling the room with blinding light and laughter. The results were imperfect, sometimes blurry, sometimes overexposed, but that was part of the charm. Each photo was a one-of-a-kind moment, captured forever, long before instant became a button on a phone. Every kid had a bike, and not a single one wore a helmet. You flew down gravel roads, hair whipping in the wind, daring friends to race faster. Scraped knees and bruised elbows were badges of honor. Parents didn't hover. They just yelled, "Be home by dinner." Your bike meant freedom. Your first taste of independence. No one worried about safety gear or traffic laws. It was just you, the open road, and a whole world waiting to explore. Every student remembers it, that intoxicating scent of freshly printed mimeograph copies. Teachers handed out warm, slightly damp worksheets, purple ink smudging your fingers. Before you even read it, you took a deep whiff. That sweet, chemical smell was strangely irresistible. The faint hum of the duplicator machine and the squeak of rollers filled the classroom. Homework might have been boring, but those fresh copies made every assignment feel brand new. Kids today will never know that strange little joy. Homework in the 60s and 70s meant flipping through massive encyclopedia sets that filled an entire bookshelf. You searched alphabetically, turning pages with fingers smudged in ink, hoping to find what you needed. Sometimes the information was outdated, but it didn't matter. You used what you found. The smell of old paper and the weight of those volumes made learning feel serious. There was no Google it, just patience, curiosity, and a sense of pride when you finally figured it out. The living room smelled of pine needles and adventure. Families spent hours untangling colored lights before draping the tree in shiny silver tinsel. Handfuls tossed by kids until everything sparkled. You could still find tinsel weeks later, clinging to carpets and cats alike. Every tree was imperfect, leaning slightly, but it glowed with warmth and love. That shimmer under the soft glow of the lights made Christmas feel magical, a memory that no plastic tree could ever replace. Instant drinks were part of every childhood. Tang made you feel like an astronaut, just like the ones on TV. Kool-Aid came in every color imaginable, and the stains on your tongue proved your loyalty. Powdered milk was less exciting, but kept families going during tight times. You mixed, stirred, and sometimes made a mess, but it was all part of growing up. The taste was simple, sweet, and a reminder of a time when even a drink could feel like science fiction. Nothing said modern convenience like a TV dinner. You pulled it from the freezer, Salisbury steak, mashed potatoes, and peas perfectly divided in their compartments. Into the oven it went, and 20 minutes later you ate it right from the tray, legs crossed on the carpet, eyes glued to the television. The smell of aluminum and gravy filled the room. It wasn't gourmet, but it was exciting. A meal made just for you. It felt futuristic, dinner and a show in one. Every backyard had a set of jarts, giant metal-tipped darts you'd toss toward plastic rings in the grass. They were heavy, sharp, and wildly unpredictable. A single misthrow could take out a toe, yet everyone played with reckless enthusiasm. Parents watched from the porch, unfazed. Alongside BB guns, chemistry kits, and slingshots, jarts were just part of growing up. Somehow, most kids survived, and they had a blast doing it. It was danger, fun, and freedom rolled into one. Typing on a typewriter was an exercise in patience and precision. Each key clacked loudly, echoing through the room, and one typo could ruin the whole page. That's where whiteout came in, the creamy chemical miracle that saved countless essays. You'd blow on it impatiently, trying not to smudge it. The rhythmic clatter of keys and the ding of the return lever created a soundtrack to productivity. There were no delete buttons, just focus, discipline, and the joy of the final page. Every trip to the grocery store came with a handful of green stamps. Kids helped lick and stick them into little booklets until the pages were full. When enough were collected, families traded them for treasures. Toasters, dishes, lamps, even furniture. The redemption catalog was pure excitement, a wish list for the practical family. It was a reward for loyalty and patience, long before loyalty cards existed. For many, green stamps were a small, but magical part of everyday life. The day the family upgraded to a color TV was unforgettable. After years of gray faces and static skies, suddenly everything came to life. Bright blue, deep red, vivid green. Shows like Bonanza and The Wonderful World of Disney felt brand new. Families gathered around an AWE, staring at the vibrant world inside that box. It wasn't just technology, it was magic. That first burst of color made everyone feel like they'd stepped into the future, right from the living room. Before playlists and streaming, making a mixtape was an art form. You sat by your cassette player for hours, finger ready on record, waiting for your favorite song to come on the radio. Timing had to be perfect. No DJ chatter, no missed intros. When you finished, you labeled it carefully. Summer '74, Road Trip Mix, or For Susan. Every tape told a story. The slight hiss, the imperfect edits. That's what made them personal. It was music, effort, and emotion rolled into one. When the alarm rang, you lined up quietly or ducked under your desk, hands over your head. It was routine, part of life in the Cold War era. Fire drills were exciting, but duck and cover drills were strange. A mix of fear and confusion. You didn't fully understand why you were hiding. You just did it. Teachers stayed. Calm, students whispered nervously, and the world outside kept spinning. It was a childhood shadowed by history, yet somehow still innocent. Family road trips with paper maps. Long before GPS, road trips were adventures built on paper maps and intuition. Dad unfolded the map across his lap while Mom pointed out turns, and the kids argued in the back seat. There were no shortcuts, just scenic detours, wrong exits, and unexpected discoveries. The car smelled like snacks, gas stations, and freedom. You learned to read road signs, sing along to AM radio, and enjoy the journey as much as the destination. Getting lost wasn't stressful. It was part of the fun. Growing up in the 60s and 70s meant freedom, imagination, and simplicity. A world where boredom sparked creativity and danger built character. There were no apps, no algorithms, just life. Raw, unpredictable, and unforgettable. What's something you remember from those days that kids today will never understand? Share it in the comments. We love reading your stories. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and join us for more nostalgic trips down memory lane. When the alarm rang, you lined up quietly or ducked under your desk, hands over your head. It was routine, part of life in the Cold War era. Fire drills were exciting, but duck and cover drills were strange, a mix of fear and confusion. You didn't fully understand why you were hiding. You just did it. Teachers stayed calm. Students whispered nervously, and the world outside kept spinning. It was childhood shadowed by history, yet somehow still innocent. Long before GPS, road trips were adventures built on paper maps and intuition. Dad unfolded the map across his lap while Mom pointed out turns, and the kids argued in the back seat. There were no shortcuts, just scenic detours, wrong exits, and unexpected discoveries. The car smelled like snacks, gas stations, and freedom. You learned to read road signs, sing along to AM radio, and enjoy the journey as much as the destination. Getting lost wasn't stressful. It was part of the fun.